I want to take you back to David and Goliath. I want to take you back to the battle lines with Goliath coming out, shouting at the armies of Israel day after day. The armies trembling behind the lines, freaked out, nowhere to go, and nothing they feel they can do. The king won't fight. There is no strong man who can fight. He shouts out insults to the people and their God day after day. And in that story, Goliath is a form of Satan. And we haven't got time to unpack that, but he's going to roll with me this morning. And in comes the little shepherd boy, David. We know from Scripture David is an archetype of Christ, right? He's a picture, a pattern of Jesus. And David, no armor, doesn't need to wear anyone else's, runs in with the gifts that he's been given and the things that he's done. And he fires that stone and he slays that giant. And this scared army that have trembled in their boots now run in behind David and claim the victory. Friends, that is like us with Jesus. He is David. He took out the problem in our life, sin and Satan. And now we, rather than trembling, run in behind his victory. Behind his victory, we are not David, Jesus is. As someone famously said. After someone else famously said something else. But anyway, friends, this truth about Christ being our trailblazer, the one who goes before us, who's in front of us still, is so vital to this church being addressed here in the book of Hebrews. They need to see it. They need to see Christ, the one who suffered with them and for them, but with them, that knows what it's like. That in their suffering and in their doubt and fear, that their faith may fail. They need to see it. They need to see Christ as the one who has suffered with them and for them. And for us sat here, Pokesdown, on the 26th of May, 2024, we also need to see the same thing. Friends, I don't know about you, but I expect the reality is for many, if not all of us, that we have felt in the past weeks and months and maybe days and maybe this very morning that you are completely afraid that your faith may fail, that you may not make it. And by that, what I mean is the grind of life is consuming your thinking. You've been busy trying to solve it all on your own without turning to Christ in prayer because you're afraid that your faith may fail. And the temptations that you've come across to believe the lies and false promises that sin is offering you. That if you just, then you'll be happy. And if you just have, you'll be satisfied. And if you just get the desires of your heart met, then all be well. And you went running after it. And now you've realized that it was a half-truth because there was no cost explained. And your desire to think there's freedom outside of Christ. In your thoughts that you think you can pull yourself up by your own strength to sort your failing faith out. When you're worried that your walk has become a crawl, believing that you're not going to make it, that you don't know if you can carry on. Friends, in many ways, that is the best place to be this morning at the end of that conversation. Because you cannot make it on your own. You see, you were the person that got yourself in the mess that you're in. You are your biggest problem. And as the end of our children's video this morning said, please save us from ourselves. Friends, but we have one who has gone before us and is walking before us still, who won the victory, who knows temptation. It wasn't a fake temptation. It wasn't like Jesus was a Clark Kent sort of Superman figure that when he was tempted, he goes, no, I'm fine. I will be okay. Look, I am Superman. No. Fully human. Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 to 11, the temptation of Christ, they were real. The turmoil he felt, real. The emotional pain he felt, real. The temptation, real. The consideration given, real. Otherwise, it's not a temptation if you're not tempted to take it. It simply isn't. If you don't like chocolate and I offer you chocolate, it's not a temptation. It simply isn't. And the temptations of Christ are far stronger than that. To avoid the pain of the cross. Who wants to go through it? To have it all now is the things that we suffer with, but Jesus overcame them. Real. See, Hebrews 4:15 tells us we have a Jesus who can sympathize with our weakness. For in every respect, verse 15, he has been tempted as we are, and yet without sin. The temptation of Christ is real. He has been tempted like we are, yet is without sin. Who was abandoned by his friends, yet did not stop. Who suffered the turmoil of the cross, physically, emotionally, spiritually, yet fixed his eyes on the glory of the Father and the goal of the gospel, which verse 10 tells us exactly what it is: to bring many sons to glory, to bring many to salvation. Christ did for us what we could not do, to bring us into a place with him that we desire but cannot get there. To bring many sons to glory. So when we consider Christ's sufferings and his victory, it doesn't only mean his victory is ours and that he did it for us. It also means that we can follow his pattern. Depending on the Spirit of God with the goal of God's glory, just like Christ did. So friends, this morning, brothers and sisters, do not lose heart. Look to Jesus and run behind him. That's the call of the gospel. Do we not see this again and again and again in Scripture? He's the one who's gone before us, and he's walking with us still.